Okay, so that's the end of the Bangtan questions, and then the rest of the questions are about me and Korea and life. So I'll start with those. How did you deal in Korea at the beginning when you didn't know the language, and was it hard? The first time I came to Korea on the long term without a translator guide was in 2012 when I came to study abroad. And by that time, I actually already knew some Korean. Not a ton, like I wasn't fluent or anything. I'm still not fluent, but I could, I was on the level of like introductions, brief conversations, ordering food. Not with a great deal of expertise, but I could manage. So I don't think that I suffered as much as someone would if they came with absolutely no knowledge of the language. It did get a little bit more difficult when I started doing stuff off of campus, especially going to fan stuff, because actually a lot of the words that you have to know in order to be like participating in K-pop fandom are not words that you're going to be learning if you're doing like Yonsei, whatever. Or I did like my Korean lessons at Sogang were like 3 times a week in the evening, and like they don't talk about how to go to K-pop broadcasts, but it was good, because they say that the best way to learn a language is through immersion, and I was definitely immersed. So the difference between the Korean that I spoke when I came to Korea in 2012 and the Korean that I spoke when I left in like July or whatever is like totally, my skills improved a lot just because I was doing so much stuff. What is the weirdest or most awkward thing that has happened to you in Korea? So after a while of living in Korea, I've kind of developed a bad habit of assuming that people around me don't understand me when I speak English, which is obviously not true. And I think that all of my most awkward experiences usually come from that assumption. Well, I have 2 examples. First, one time, me and some friends we were walking in the subway, and there was a really cute guy who got off the train with us, and he was walking up the stairs in front of us, and we were talking like not super loudly, but like audibly about how cute we thought he was. And he was totally ignoring us, but then he took his phone out of his pocket and he answered it in fluent English. And we were all just like, shit. Another time, which is not such a good thing, is I was at Music Corps once, and I don't know if you've ever been to Music Corps. It was when Music Corps was still going on at Ilsan, at the Dream Center or whatever. So there's the building. This explanation is not gonna work. So there's the building, and then on the side of the building is the driveway where the idols come out after they're done. It's fans after the taping will go there and line up so they can like whatever wave to their oppas as they leave. And so we were waiting there, and it wasn't really raining. It was like drizzling a tiny, tiny bit, like misting. And the thing about Koreans is that if it's even misting, umbrellas are up everywhere. And so this girl she was shorter than me, and she was standing in front of me, which wasn't a problem until she opened her umbrella right in my face. And so I turned to Natalie, my friend Natalie, who was with me at the time, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is how it's gonna be. And then the girl in front of me with the umbrella turned around and she was like, do you want me to close it? And I was like, I'm sorry that I'm an asshole. Oh. Now my philosophy is that I won't say anything about anyone in English that I wouldn't say to them in Korean. I think it's a good life lesson. Do you have to have a degree to be able to teach English in Korea? Yes. However, it does not have to be a degree in English or even in teaching. It can be a degree in any subject as long as it is a degree from an accredited university in a country that speaks English as an official language. So we have people like at my job who have business degrees and psych degrees and whatever, and we also have some English majors. Do you have any regrets about living in Korea? No, not really. I mean, I don't think that I want to live here for the rest of my life, but I don't regret having lived here this far. Have you seen racism in Korea? I'm a white person. I'm really not qualified to talk about the issue of racism in Korea, being both a foreigner and a white person. However, I have seen some instances of xenophobia, which I think sometimes looks like racism, but it's rooted a little bit differently. Korea's population is 95.6% Korean, ethnically and nationality-wise Korean, and only 3.4% foreigners of any ethnicity. So not only people from America and Europe and whatever, but also like Chinese, Japanese, and other East Asian people. If you talk to a Korean person who has gray hair, they probably remember Japanese occupation. It hasn't really been that long since Korea became a country that even had foreigners living in it. Among the older generations in particular, there are instances of people being resistant to foreigners coming into the country. I think it also has something to do with the fact that a lot of, historically, since the Korean War, a lot of the foreign presence in Korea has been military, and the military has not particularly been good to Korean people. The military has been responsible for a lot of really bad social problems that have arisen in Korea in the last 50 years. So especially a lot of older people are not really fond of foreigners because to them they represent these kind of colonial forces that have come and taken over their peninsula. Is bright colored hair acceptable in Korea? Yes and no. A lot of people do dye their hair in Korea, but it's way more common for people to dye their hair to colors that occur naturally for some people, although not usually for Koreans. So someone with like black hair might dye their hair to a lighter brown. It's not unheard of to see people with really brightly colored hair, like red or pink or blue or whatever. It's more common among students. If you are a person who has a quote unquote real job, like an office job or a teaching job or whatever, you are usually expected to have a hair color that occurs in nature as opposed to hair colors that only occur in bottles. Is Korea cold right now? Not really. I guess by some, if you're from like Hawaii, probably, but I'm from Oregon. This is pretty warm for me. Can you explain Korean age? All right, well, I'll try. So Korean age confuses a lot of people because they don't really know how it works or when it changes. I'll use myself as an example. I was born February 22nd, 1991. So Koreans count the 10 months that you're in the womb. They just round it up. That counts as a year by the time you come out. So on the day that you are born, you are 1 year old in Korean age. And then every year at the solar new year, so January 1st, your age changes 1 year. So February 22nd, 1991, I was 1 year old. January 1st, 1992, I was 2 years old. However, when I turned 2 in Korean age, because my birthday in Western age hadn't happened yet, I was still 0. I was 10 months old, but I was already 2. For me, because my birthday is close to the beginning of the year, usually, with the exception of the 2 months between January 1st and February 22nd, my Korean age is 1 year older than my regular age. So I just add 1. But Natalie, who I mentioned earlier, she is born on December 22nd. So when she was born, December 22nd, 1990, she was already 1 year old. And then on January 1st, 1992, she turned 2. So she was, 9 days old? 9 or 10 days old, and she was already 2. But she wouldn't turn 1 in Western years until December 22nd, 1991. So it can be confusing. Think of it like you're one when you're born, and then if your birthday has already passed, then your difference is 1. And if your birthday hasn't passed yet, your difference is 2. Hopefully that makes more sense. With regards to how Korean people calculate line, it usually actually has more to do with who you go to school with. So I don't know about other countries, but in the United States, if you're born in like August or September, I think, you can choose whether you want to go to school with older kids and be the youngest, or go to school with younger kids and be the oldest, because your birthday is kind of in that weird time at the beginning of the school year. Korea is the same. So people born in January, February, and sometimes early March, their parents usually will choose, do they want to send them to school with the age group that's above them? So I was born February 1991. So if I was Korean, I would probably have gone to school with people who were born between March and December 1990. So I would be considered a 1990 liner, and I would be friend line, 동갑, as it's called. I would be 동갑 with people who were born in 1990, and then people who were born later in 1991 would call me 언니 or 누나. It's called being fast. So I could say I'm a 빠른 91. Where do you live? I live in Gangseong. It's boring. All we have here is Inkigayo. My favorite books or movies. My all-time favorite books are The Little Prince. I have tattoos from The Little Prince. That's how much I like it. And I really like Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game, even though I think that Orson Scott Card is an abhorrent human being. I really like that book. Lately, I've been reading this book called Say You're One of Them by Uwe Makpam, and it's really good. Recommend. As for movies, I like a lot of movies. I really liked Children of Men. I like this Makoto Shinkai movie called Voices of a Distant Star. It's really sad, but it's really good. His animation is gorgeous. I don't know. I like a lot of movies. Oh, Atonement. That's another really good one. Music that I like other than K-pop. I like hip-hop. I like orchestral alt-rock. I don't know. I have a really kind of varied music taste. Recently, I've been listening to, I was going to say, I don't know, are you guys wanting like non-Korean music or just non-K-pop music? Because I've been listening to a lot of Dean and Rico, who are both Korean artists, but not K-pop. I've been listening to Oh Wonder's self-titled album, which is amazing. Please listen to it. It's so good. I like pretty much everything. I'll give anything a chance. Okay, well, that was longer than I expected it to be. Hopefully some of those answers were useful or interesting at least. I don't know. I'll leave some links in the description, so please click them. If you have any further questions, you can leave them on Twitter or on Ask FM, and I'll do my best to answer them. Bye!